indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, 1 minute. Sorry, I was a little late there. I was 1 minute behind in starting the meeting. Please note the council's in attendance except for Mr. De La Garza, who's absent. I want to welcome everyone to our regularly scheduled meeting of October 4th. First on our agenda is items from council. We do have one proclamation tonight. I guess we can do that first. We have a bunch of young people here in green coats, looking good. It's a 4-H proclamation. Why don't we read that? Y'all go ahead and come forward, and we'll have, the city attorney's going to read it for us.
This is a proclamation signed by Mayor Paul Polaschik, and it reads in part, whereas the City of Victoria is proud to honor the 4-H Youth Development Program of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for 109 years of providing experience-based education to youngsters throughout the Lone Star State. And whereas this admirable program, which seeks to provide a learning experience for the whole child, including the head, heart, hands, and health, helps young Texans acquire knowledge, develop life skills, and form attitudes to enable them to become self-directed, productive, and contributing members of our society. And whereas the program undoubtedly could not have achieved the success it has today were it not for the service of its more than 30,000 volunteers who have given generously of their time, talents, energies, and resources to the youth of Texas. Now therefore, I, Paul Polaschik, Mayor of the City of Victoria, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 2nd through 8th, 2016 as National 4-H Week in Victoria, Texas, and commend the 4-H Youth Development Program of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service and the many men and women who have made the program a success.
Cool. Okay. Well, where would you like us to put the baked goods so they don't have to hold it any longer?
There's a table. They moved the table. They moved the table.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
They brought a lot.
Y'all might have gotten some.
You got that Morse code over it.
Squeeze in nice and
That was two.
Well. Well, thank y'all for letting us come. It's kind of hard to get these kiddos out of school, and they're so busy with all their projects. And I have one actually going to State Fair as soon as he gets done with his hog. But like was stated in the proclamation, we are having National 4-H Week, and basically it's a reflection that our kids get to give back to the community. It's one of the pillars that 4-H kind of stands on, is community service. And so all this week, our clubs and members are gonna be giving back to our community in various projects, and I'll just let y'all think what community service is. I mean, we were from flower beds to helping out at church functions and school, so various things there. And so I just like to introduce some of our 4-H ambassadors that we have in our program, and they have just a little bit that they're gonna give us on our numbers and stuff to give y'all an idea how big our 4-H program is. So I have McKenna Thickpen, Braden Parsons, Nicole Easley, and Lane Marbach. So I'll let them talk real quick.
Last year there was 12 clubs total in the Victoria County 4-H, and this year is 17. We brought back the horse project, and then all of our shooting sports became their own club. And then we also had 450 members and 250 parent volunteers. The parent volunteers take around kids, they take them to competitions, just help around with that.
For our National 4-H Week, Louisiana has asked Texas to help with a school supplies drive due to the flooding in Louisiana. And Victoria County has graciously said yes. And we have so many school supplies, it is cheaper for us to drive it to Louisiana. So we thank everyone who did donate to that.
Last year, we reached over 2,000 youth in Victoria County through our 4-H groups and also through school projects such as the Safety Day and through Master Gardeners tours.
We just wanted to give y'all a little bit, and we again thank y'all for letting us come and give y'all an update, and hopefully y'all enjoy the baked goods that they've brought for y'all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do appreciate all your service to the community. Hope it's a lifelong effort. And you set a wonderful example as well. So thank you. And we will eat those goodies. Promise. Okay. We are still in items from items from council. I have a couple real quick ones. Just a reminder, it's National Night Out. If anyone's going, I know, I don't want to rush, but I do have a little gathering in my driveway at 7 o'clock. An issue came up with the itinerant vendors licensing, and I wanted to ask, the city manager made me aware of it just before the meeting earlier this afternoon, and I wanted to ask her to explain it to everyone so we're all on the same page. It's just an unintended consequence we need to deal with.
You may remember back during the summer, we did amendments to Chapter 14, Article 3, which was itinerant vendors, outdoor sales, charitable sales. We made some modifications to that area. The unintended consequence was we failed to leave in an exception to the community center park, where people that had events at the community center were required to have itinerant vendors, is how it is today. It was not intended to be that way, and that's why I say it's unintended consequences. We've got some events coming up over the next few weeks. What we're going to do is bring back an amendment on the 18th to make that exception to the ordinance, but in the meantime, I'd like to use my discretion and not enforce that ordinance, so those people would not have the ill effects of what we failed to do back in the summer. So just to make you aware, we're bringing that back on the
And it
18th.
was not in there prior.
There was an exemption in there prior,
For
so
the
that's correct. And so
community
that's
center
what it'll be, an exemption back for the community center grounds.
And to make all those vendors come get a permit would be an undue burden.
Absolutely. So,
We'll see it on the 18th, you said?
yes, you
Okay.
will. Yeah. So,
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to make sure the council was aware of that. Okay, that's all I had.
I have an item from council, but I'm never quite sure how this agenda works. It really would be more appropriate to discuss it after C1. And so it's not really part of the discussion of C1, but it's going to it'll make more sense after C1,
For
so.
during C1, can't we just,
Well, after we're done with C1, just before we go to C2.
that's fine. Just, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, I have one item.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a constituent called, and he said he couldn't come because he goes to work from 6 to 6. His dilemma is that he bought a trailer, and he was going to put it, or he has put it at 1703 Delmar. He has not been able to get electricity to it because they're telling him he has to have a sidewalk first. He says, "Ma'am, I'm making a house payment, and I can't even live in it." And he said he was never told that he had to have a sidewalk when he went to go get the permit. I think A1 Homes was the one that got the permit, and he is pretty irate. So I want somebody to look into it, because I have asked before that whenever they go get a permit, for somebody to go through the steps, okay, now you're gonna do this, you need this, not just give him the permit and then not tell him that he also needed a sidewalk.
I think that's a case that we're very familiar with, and if Jarrett doesn't mind speaking to that.
Sure. We are aware of that case, and from what my staff has told me, we did explain to both the applicant and the installer that the sidewalk would be required. This particular case, there was previously a home there that was pulled off, and since we're putting a new home, that's why a sidewalk is being required. There is a sidewalk on either side, the lots on either side of it, so it's a true gap in the sidewalk network through there. But from what my staff is telling me, we did inform both the applicant and the installer, but that has not been a satisfactory response.
Now, he can seek a variance.
He can seek a
Through
variance.
Planning Commission.
And that would go to planning commission and then ultimately to council.
I explained that to him, but I also found out that it's gonna take, what, another 3 weeks before they meet, and then, that's why he's concerned. He says, I would go down there and voice my opinion, he says, but I have to go to work.
Sure.
So, it took a while to calm him down, so I'm just what I'm saying.
And that's the right course for him to take, is seek a variance through the Planning Commission for
Yes,
the,
because somebody had told him an exception, and that's why I said, no, sir, I think what you're looking for is a variance.
yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you can please take care of that, please.
But I think he knows he needs to seek a variance, so he's got to apply for it.
Right, as staff, I don't have the ability to waive the sidewalk. He has to apply for a variance. And so we're in a holding pattern until either the sidewalk is installed or he is able to obtain a variance.
Okay.
But he's been given the paperwork to do the variance or been made aware.
That
Okay.
I'm not sure about that.
Follow up with that
We'll
tomorrow
follow up
then
on
to make
that.
sure he
Thank you.
understands. Sure.
Okay. Items from council, anything else? Okay, if not, we'll close council communications and move into citizens' communications. If anyone would like to come forward to speak about anything at all, now would be the time. And just please limit your name and address for the record and limit your remarks to 5 minutes or less out of a courtesy to everyone else.
Yes, sir. Thank you, council, for having me here today. My name is Clara Ramos, and I'm a committee member for the Magic Fest that's taking place this weekend. And I'm only here on a good term today. I wanted to thank the city manager and the city attorney for working with me today. I know that, I kind of like jumped in and wanted answers right away, but I do appreciate that y'all did come to a very good conclusion for us. So I'd like to thank y'all. But I do have one, and I don't know if it's a suggestion or maybe a question, however you want to take it, but there are a lot of vendors that do come from out of town, and some from even out of state. How is it that those vendors can get the information that is needed, for the new ordinances that are taking place? Because we don't have a website on any type of application, or, if y'all could just put it out there somehow, that if they are planning on coming into Victoria, that there's some ordinances that have to be followed in order for them to come in. So we had, vendors coming from Chicago, the Valley, and all different types of areas. So this is just a concern right now because I know that we'll run into some problems later on. And so we're hoping that there's some way of taking care of that.
I think, I realize this isn't, I want to kind of respond. I cannot deliberate with you because it's not on the
Right,
agenda.
right.
What I'd like council to know is that I did speak with Danielle from Parks today, and a different effort when somebody contracts at the community center to make sure all the applicable ordinances are a part of that. So we will work on that. So thank you.
Okay. Well, and again, thank y'all very much for helping me today. And I told you I'd be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Citizens' communication still open for anyone that would like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll close citizens' communications, and our first ordinance does not have a public hearing.
That's
C1.
correct. This is item C1, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 relating to occupational licenses, taxes, and regulations to update the city's code of ordinances relevant to any calling, occupation, profession, trade, or vocation or business upon which a state license, tax, or occupation tax is levied under the laws of the state, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for publication, codification, and savings, and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve C1?
Second.
Second. Do you have amendments?
Yes, I have 3 amendments I'd like to propose. I'd like to propose to amend Section 1410D, page 2 of 7 of the ordinance. And I'd like to strike the word, well, let me read it to you, and I think y'all all have a handout. I'd like to read, "This section shall not apply to a place of business legally selling alcoholic beverages prior to the effective date of this section, provided that, should such place of business be unlicensed for the sale of alcoholic beverages for a continuous period of more than 6 months, then this section shall thereafter apply to such place of business." striking discontinued and substituting in be unlicensed for and changing it from 30 days to 6 months.
Making that, each of these is separate
I'm gonna
motions
make
to
them
amend?
separate so that we
Okay.
can discuss them
So
separately.
that's a motion to amend section D.
We'll need a second.
I'll second to discuss.
Okay.
Okay, business, to strike discontinue and put what?
I got another copy.
I guess we're in the discussion phase of this amendment. Why 6 months? Somewhat arbitrary, or
Somewhat arbitrary. I didn't feel like 30 days was enough.
probably isn't, because you have a 45-day working permit on a new permit. I'm trying to think this through. Help me here. A guy shuts down his bar. Another guy comes in, wants to get a liquor license. You want to give him 6 months, and it's within that 300 feet limit. Is that what we intend?
I'm looking out for the property rights of that owner. The daycare was coming in or next to him, daycare facility. I don't want to limit the ability of someone to sell their business, transfer their business, to have one violation and shut down. I'm looking at being able to allow that person the right to continue his business as it was.
I recognize that if it's, if a operator loses his license for violations, he's probably not a very good operator, and we may not want him around anyway. That being said, I'm trying to understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. And if one is presently, and I believe from the map we had last time, that would affect only one location.
I think there were 12.
One that's within, with that distance. It was on that map we had last time, and I didn't bring it with me.
I didn't bring that map either, but I think the number quoted was 12.
The numbers that were close to schools and so on, there was one that non-grandfathering would affect.
Let's go.
Thank you, Scarlett. She does better than me.
Is the place, if I may, the verbiage, I'm asking the attorney probably more than anybody, such place of business, the change of discontinue to be unlicensed for, is that material, or am I just thinking too hard on this? That's not, it's
There
not
is-
a material change, really.
It is a material change in that the way the ordinance is currently written, the grandfathering is lost if they cease the sale of alcoholic beverages for a period of time. Whereas the change that is being proposed would be that the site is unlicensed. And so it may come about where a business chooses not to sell, or for whatever reason, renovation or whatever, ceases the sale of alcohol for 45 days. Under our current ordinance, even if they're still licensed at that facility, they haven't been selling, they would lose their grandfathering. This amendment would change it to look at the license, not the actual sale.
For them. Is this in any state law, or is this above and beyond what the state requires? 'Cause we're making the other part of this, it's really uncontested, to match the state law. How does,
That's a good question, because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. The state law does not regulate how close a business can be to a school, a daycare, a church, or any of this information. What state law says is that the city has the authority to regulate within 300 feet of
oh, okay,
each of these things.
I got
And
you.
so all of these regulations are our local regulations.
But we're taking their definition of 300 feet, just using that.
That's right.
Right,
When
okay.
we say we're aligning our ordinance with state law, what we mean is the measurement methodology is
Okay.
changing.
Okay.
I have a question about place of business. Is place of business a geographic location, or is it Jim and Sally's all-night liquor store or half-night liquor store? Is place of business the geographic place, or is it the business? Because I don't know that there's a definition.
I
There may be
agree
somewhere
with you,
else.
there's not a definition there. I interpret that to mean the geographic location. And the reason that I do is falling back on some of the TABC regulations, where they talk about their posting requirements don't apply if that physical location has been licensed in the last 2 years. So I'm aligning my interpretation with what TABC's interpretation is.
Thomas, the 45 days that you just mentioned, you said that, was that part of TABC or?
No, I didn't mention that. I think Mr. Halapaska did, and I think what he's referring to is the period of notice, which might be 60 days.
It's
I'm
60
not sure. I
days,
believe it's
yeah.
60 days, not 45, but
Okay,
When you go for alcoholic beverage license, you're required
Right.
to put a sign up informing the public that you would be selling liquor at that location, so that anyone interested could make comment to Alcoholic Beverage Commission. That's 45 days there. So I can see we could be extended a little bit. I'm not sure about the wording. You know, I do have trouble with that wording, as
The
others might.
unlicensed part?
Please?
Which wording, the unlicensed?
Yeah. But as far as extending it a little more, 2 or 3 months, then that would fit in with the 45 days posting.
Well, you could shut down your business that was selling alcoholic beverages, right? You could still have the license.
Right.
But the way this is written right now, you wouldn't be able to sell it as a place that could have a liquor license.
And
You know
if
what I'm
you were
saying?
the operator and you were shutting down for, like, say, a remodel, you wouldn't go back and stop your license, so you'd have to reapply. You would keep it going.
No, but what if
Even
you
though you
wanted to
wouldn't be
sell your
selling.
business? What if you wanted to sell that location?
It's still consuming alcohol in the same location. It's not a change of use,
The way this is written, it would be.
and it would require a new application, though, wouldn't it? Then
So
how
I'm
do you
saying
do
you could,
both?
you could shut down and still have a year left on your license for that location, but not operating. And if you weren't selling then for 3 months, but you were still licensed, then you'd be
That's
shut
why I
down.
have trouble with the wording a little bit. If it's licensed, it shouldn't matter whether you're selling anything or not.
That's why I proposed the change, that wording.
I'm good, I understand. I don't mind making it, always giving people more time. I can't see, staff may have some unintended consequences, but I can't think of anything.
And I could only think of that one business on that map.
Would you feel better with 90 days?
I would.
Would you?
I mean, you know, I'm trying to, why stretch it quite so far, but I can understand what you're trying to accomplish. And in most practical circumstances,
Be all right
which it
with
only
90
would
days.
affect one place, would he shut down
I'm all right with 90
and
days.
stop his license?
I don't know,
He
it's
wouldn't want
just
to go through
six,
that re-licensing process, that's why.
6 months is just a lot of flexibility, and I'm trying to think, there'd be some situation out there where, the only thing I can think of is somebody that doesn't want someone. Make it just a little harder, you know?
I'm all right with 90
Well,
days.
can you, since your amendment says 6 months, can you change it?
Can I make an
Procedurally-
amendment to,
procedurally, somebody needs to make a motion to amend the amendment.
Do that?
I move
Are
we
you-
amend the amendment to change 6 months to 90 days.
There you go.
second?
Okay, why don't we just vote on that? I think, do y'all need to discuss that? Okay, so the amendment, the motion in the second was to amend the amendment to change 6 months to 90 days. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, so now it's 90 days, which still affords a great deal of flexibility from. Okay, so are we okay with the rest of it? We have a motion and a second on this amendment as amended?
Let's just talk through this unlicensed
Okay.
part. I'm still having, maybe I'm a little slow for my age here, but,
While he's thinking about that, let me ask again about place of business. And the reason I'm picking it up is because in some of these later provisions, I think it comes back again. Does place of business need to be just defined in some way, or shall not apply to a physical place of business? Maybe something like that. So I would have to make that as a motion to
There you go.
amend. But I want to think and make sure that's what I mean before I, okay, so I move that
I think that that amendment would likely be unrelated to the subject of his amendment, so why don't we finish the discussion of his amendment and then we'll circle back to yours.
Okay, and we might.
Because you want to define it, just define
Right,
that.
and we might end up
Separate
putting a
location.
definition in or something like that
Alright.
instead.
Okay,
Oh, I see what you mean.
okay.
No motion.
We gonna gerrymander this thing to death, or what?
No,
Thought the idea was to get it more in line with,
so, you had a question? You were concerned about that? Do you need to discuss it?
I'm just trying to make sure I get my head around it about the, unlicensed sale of alcoholic beverages. I'm still trying to think of, is that only if a guy was selling his business, or? This is actually to protect the schools, daycares, that nature.
Also, I think,
Well, there's a location over on the Loop,
On where?
on the Loop
Okay,
and Mockingbird, there's a corner there that has a license
okay.
to sell beverages. Nothing there.
Vacant lot.
It's a vacant lot, but that lot has a license to sell. So with this provision in there, the way I read it, he hadn't sold anything. Not gonna sell anything in 90 days. So we'd never be able to, that location would not be valid anymore.
About the license, not the business operation.
Or at least for this provision, which is a 300-foot provision.
Right.
Okay,
Now, that was done before the school,
That license was in place before the school was there.
kind of like got that grandfathered. Not that that's bad,
No,
is what it is.
I'm sure it's done to set up for a future convenience store or something, my guess.
more than likely a major intersection, convenience store setting or something.
Right. But that's a different scenario than just someone that's already there and maybe selling his business.
All right?
This section deals with the pre-existing business, right? We're not talking about a business that's going to come, it's
Right.
pre-existing already. We want to grandfather him. But if he's going to remodel or something, it's taking more than 90 days, then he won't be able
Well, as
to.
long as he maintains his license. Maintains his license on that location, not actively selling like it had said before.
Okay.
That was my trouble with the wording, make sure we were doing that properly.
Okay. We do have this is second and third reading. I don't know if anybody wants to. You could break it apart if you need to have a third reading. I'm not saying we need to at this point, so. Okay. We good to vote on this one? We have a motion
voted
and
on
a
D,
second
but-
on the amendment as amended.
And now we're voting on the amendment.
Right.
On
yeah, but
D,
did you want to go through E and G?
To
I want to
amend,
do them separately.
Now, we're doing one at a time,
I want them to stand alone.
Okay.
so.
this is a motion to
Little
amend
cleaner.
section
Okay.
D.
Each one should stand alone.
Okay, we ready? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, that amendment passes. Now we'll do E. You'll need to make that.
Okay. Yes. Sure, the amendment was amended. Here, I'm gonna hand you a written copy, that'll help a lot. Okay. The motion on the floor that was just passed was to change the phrase, discontinue the sale of alcoholic beverages to be unlicensed for the sale of alcoholic beverages, and to change 30 days to 90 days. And that passed. And then that passed as well, yes.
Okay, on section E, the subsequent section, I would like to strike the words "for a continuous period of at least 6 months" and add daycare facility to 1 after A and daycare facility to E2 after A and before church.
Okay. So
Or, sorry, it's childcare, excuse me. Be consistent.
Yep. Okay, so we have a motion. We need a second to discuss. Council?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion is second. Discussion?
All right, the reason I proposed this, way it was written, you had been in a location selling alcoholic beverages in a childcare facility, moved in next to you, within your first 6 months of operation, you were required to shut down. So I didn't think that was right for that property owner that had opened another business. Someone else moves right next door to them within the first 6 months and can shut them down.
They shouldn't be penalized for not their action.
So it just says if you were there first, then the rights remain.
Especially with the addition of the childcare piece, that's the easiest one to open. That's the one that kind of, I don't know a lot about those, but I mean, you can have one in a home and get it licensed and so.
Never want to write something that's going to affect someone as an ex post facto, and I understand that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I kind of caught that as I was doing this other amendments and I was.
But this is where I get stuck with the geographic, because it's almost, and I just keep reading it, because it's almost like saying, we have now, I'm going to say the word, we have now zoned this area that it's okay to sell alcohol here. And I just want to make sure we're not saying that, but when we're saying it doesn't apply to a place of business, selling alcoholic beverages. So does that mean if 10 years ago that happened, that this place is now grandfathered?
Wouldn't that go the other way too, though? Opening a childcare facility, you could also zone it as preventing a, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like it could, right?
But you're shaking your head no, and so.
No, because I think the next amendment should take care of that.
Except that they're all, hey, give me a minute to read the other one also.
Okay.
That's not on the table yet.
I've got a comment. Okay, we're making all these changes to this resolution or this ordinance. Shouldn't TABC be told where we have these daycares and stuff? Because when you go in there to go and apply for, you are asked if you're close to a daycare. Now, if somebody has a daycare in a home, that would be difficult to determine whether I'm placing my business next to a daycare.
The process that TABC uses, I understand, is that if a new business is seeking to open, they require that the new business get a certificate signed by the city secretary and someone at the county, I'm not sure who. And that certificate says, we have checked to make sure that that business complies with our local ordinances. Because remember, TABC doesn't regulate,
Right,
we
right.
do. And so then Scarlett checks with the planning commission, they do the measurements, and Scarlett signs that certificate and they take that back to TABC to get. That's how TABC finds out about it.
Ms. Scott, did you have other?
Well, I'm wondering about if the for a continuous period should stay and just remove the of at least 6 months. So that, again, I'm trying to not grandfather a place that's not being used to allow a place to now be converted. I'm trying to avoid a situation where a place it sells alcohol and then stops selling alcohol. Child care center comes in and they go back and say, oh, you know, there used to be a liquor store there, so that one's grandfathered anyway. And so if it's selling liquor at the time of the issuance, I think that's a good amendment, but I want the continuous period to stay in, I guess is what I'm getting at. I probably said that backwards.
And Scott, if you're going to make that in the form of an amendment, I
Okay,
ask you to propose it with the word continuously rather than for a continuous period.
okay, so
Continuously
then
prior.
I move
Selling
to,
alcoholic beverages continuously
But
prior to.
if,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, I was going to move then, if I could figure this out, to amend the amendment so that it would say, this section shall not apply to a place of business legally selling alcoholic beverages continuously prior to. and continuing on.
That's a motion to amend the amendment.
All same subject. I'm sorry, I was
The mayor's
asking
making
the
sure.
attorney that, I mean, we can talk about any of this, really. It's a little convoluted right now. Her amendment or motion does not have a second at this point unless someone wants to make it right now. I can, okay. Getting in the weeds.
Starting to get confused here, guys.
I think what I would ask, Ms. Scott, is you discuss that change now without the making a motion. See,
Okay,
because I want to make sure I
Discuss it again.
understand. I want to
Okay.
understand your motion better,
Sure.
okay?
um,
I want everyone else to as well.
my concern continues to be, we talked earlier about unintended consequences, continues to be that if once a place has sold alcoholic beverages with these amendments that we're looking at, it's making that place for all time be grandfathered. And I'm trying to not make it be grandfathered for all time, but be grandfathered for the period around which the daycare center came in or the church came in, so that if a place legally sold beverages, shut down, moved away, other things developed, and then somebody wanted to start selling alcohol again, they would go back to the history. They would go talk to people who say, oh, I remember when I used to go down to the corner and, buy my beer. Oh, well, that's a place that was legally selling alcoholic beverages before the issuance of these certificates of occupancy
For the
So-
child care or whatever.
for the child
So
care or
by-
whatever.
By continuously, they have to,
By continuously,
they
then,
can't be shut down by daycare coming in, but if they stop,
right,
the daycare thing overrides, I see. So the bar goes out of business, the church is built, it doesn't impact, the bar can stay there, the church can stay there, but when the bar goes out of business, then the rule kicks in for any other future bars. That's what you're saying by adding the word continuously.
right.
And my
It's-
next amendment that I'm gonna propose,
I want to jump in and clarify because I don't think the mayor just said that
Okay.
quite right.
Please
I
clarify
think what
me.
I think what the amendment says is that this section does not apply only if business selling alcohol is in operation at the moment that the church is coming in, right? But we're only looking at that one moment when the church is being built. We're not looking forward from that. What you just said that I think is not correct is you said if the bar closes down later. That's not a part of this amendment here. This is only looking at the moment when the bar comes in, the moment when the church comes in,
childcare facility.
or childcare facility, or school, or hospital, and not carrying on down the road.
Okay, you guys making all these amendments? Y'all want to jump in here? Anybody have any questions?
I look at it as the way that it's written, it's in present tense. It's really getting in the weeds on it. That place of business legally selling, when that church, school, childcare facility, hospital applies for their certificate of occupancy, just because they've been there less than 6 months doesn't have to shut down.
Okay,
I read that sentence in the present tense. And
Present tense.
okay.
the place of business legally selling. Not sold, place of business legally selling.
I mean, the bottom line there is that one business can't push another out just by the nature of the business. Okay, does this do that, Mr. City Attorney, as it's written now?
I agree with Mr. Bachknight's interpretation that because it says selling in the present tense, then that does refer to a business currently in operation at the moment that the church, et cetera, applies.
Okay. Scott, do you want to reinstate your motion or not?
It didn't have a second before, and this additional discussion, people saying they think it's in the present tense, and the city attorney saying selling.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I would,
That'll die
withdraw
for
my
lack of
motion,
second.
yeah.
Okay, withdraw, okay, thank you. Very good. So we have a motion and a second on this amendment. Is there any further clarification needed? Okay, seeing no one jump out and raise their hand, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign? Okay, you have one more.
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
It's just to add section G. I'm gonna read it to you, and it's, you gotta think about it a little bit. So the section shall not apply to a place of business seeking to legally sell alcohol if the child care facility, public hospital, school, or church that would otherwise disqualify the business seeking to legally sell alcohol previously located within 300 feet of a business legally selling alcoholic beverages, and said business location has maintained a valid license to sell alcohol without a lapse of more than 2 years.
Be redundant? I mean, didn't we cover this? How does this?
No.
Okay, explain it.
If a
Wait, can we get a second?
daycare facility came in,
Can we get a second?
Maybe, maybe not.
I'll second it. Just-
Okay, sorry.
if you have a place that sells alcohol and a daycare facility comes, locates within that 300-foot boundary, it realizes that it is locating within said location. Someone wants to open on the other side of it, this says it's okay. Essentially, that 300-foot boundary, by them locating within that boundary, they realize that one on the other side is not a problem either. Unless first business that they had located next to had been closed for 2 years, then 300-foot boundary is established. Is that right?
I think you did.
And why is that not covered by these others?
Well, on E, you are a business that is applying for a location to sell alcohol, and you're locating next to a daycare facility. E doesn't cover you. D doesn't cover you. None of the exceptions cover you. But that daycare facility or church, school, hospital went and located itself right next to a place of business selling alcoholic beverages. It knew the location it was putting itself in and is okay, therefore, by doing so, with being located next to such a business that would sell alcohol. So being on the other side of it, back, front, side, within that 300-foot boundary should not be a problem.
I'm not, let me just think out loud here for a second. This was intended to where bars couldn't locate close to facilities that were already there. Can't envision where a school would build next to a bar trying to force the bar out of business. We've already covered that with the grandfathering.
We're adding childcare
I don't want a
facility.
grandfather, yeah, and everything else, yeah. Yada, yada, yada. So I'm still struggling with this as well. Explain it better.
Okay.
An example.
I wish I had a whiteboard.
There you go.
I do?
Right behind you.
Okay. Let me try this.
I understand the distances and all that.
I'm a lot
thinking of
better
the times.
visually. Got a alcohol here, right? And childcare comes in right here. Now a bar wants to open right there. That order, right? So first, that's second. What's wrong with them being right there?
Because we've just changed the distance.
But
We've just changed that distance.
here was their 300-foot boundary.
Yeah. Then why have an ordinance if you're not going to keep them from doing it in the future, but you're grandfathering those existing? I guess that's where I'm going with that.
And I'm
Grandfathering those
just-
that are already here, and we're already saying they can't be forced out, but why would we allow one when we just said you need 300 feet?
I'm saying, why is the daycare prioritized over the other business? If they,
Then why
so in
make the
fact,
rule at all?
if they chose to locate and within that 300-foot boundary already.
If it were me, if I was gonna open that bar, I would go next door to the daycare and knock on the door and ask them if it's okay, and then I'd apply for a variance.
I don't, but I'm just saying,
I just
they,
would,
they
you know-
located themselves within that zone.
But we have many things that have been grandfathered, but the idea of any ordinance is to improve it going forward. So you grandfathered the existing, but that doesn't mean you would allow new ones to do the same thing that the old one had done when it was still legal. That's why we're doing this 300-foot change. And so I'm trying to figure out why you would want to water that portion down if what we're trying to achieve is that greater separation to a property line to property line.
But why would the daycare choose to go in that space anyway?
Maybe they're dumb as a rock. I can't answer.
Well,
But why should anybody else be penalized for their stupidity?
but couldn't A be a convenience store?
Yes, it
There's
could be a
big-
convenience store.
In your example, there's a big difference between a daycare being next to a convenience store, and now suddenly, because the convenience store is there, now there's going to be a bar on the other
Well,
side.
then put it both A and B are both convenience stores. It's still a license to sell alcohol. Beer and wine, it's just, we don't delineate in this
And-
ordinance between
And I'd like,
late liquor license or anything like that.
I'd like to ask the city attorney's opinion. Helpful, in your opinion? I mean, it's just that some of these ordinances can get quite confusing and subject to some different interpretation a decade from now with a different set of attorneys and a different counsel. What is your opinion? Not putting you in between any of us.
No, if you're asking me if I find it helpful, I'm gonna decline to answer that question because that's a policy question. If you're asking me what my interpretation of the code is, I think that this language effectively accomplishes what he just described up there on the board, which is that if the childcare facility in the middle there chooses to locate next to a business that's selling alcohol, they give up their right to complain about a second business coming in selling alcohol behind them. I think the language effectively accomplishes that goal. Whether the goal is a goal that you want to accomplish is up to you
Understood,
guys.
understood. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second, right? Who made the second?
I made the
Tom
second.
made the second, okay.
We need
This is the
discussion.
this is the toughest one, I grant you, but I was trying to
Well-
look at everything on a property rights basis.
Oh, absolutely, and I can be the same way. That's not the point. The point is, what are we trying to accomplish? And this seems to be going slightly against it if we grandfather forever and, you know.
2-year period that I have on there right now, so if it lapses for 2 years, then that 300-foot boundary gets reestablished.
Reinstated. This is one of those, you know, when the 300-foot boundary got modified to be doorstep to doorstep. You know, a council did that about 25 years ago. They sat here and, oh, well, we can fix it this way to allow this business. Unfortunately, that's what we end up doing. And somebody in the future may be a problem here with this. I prefer the variance process, but, I mean, I understand what you're doing. I have a feeling, you know, even if we pass this Third Amendment, we pass all this and go home, it'd be some different challenge in a few years.
Ordinances don't fix anything.
Sometimes you
Solution looking
can't,
for a problem?
you can't, yeah, but you can't write a law to match every scenario.
Yeah.
You know, we try, don't we? But it never works typically, so. I understand what you described. The city attorney has said it will accomplish that. We can try it. I'm okay, you know. And it can be changed. Every ordinance can be changed, and vote your conscience. I'm sorry, any other comments on this?
I think this is overkill on that, my part.
Okay, all those, so we have a motion and a second on the amendment to C. Sorry? Yes, we can. So to C1, I had to see where we were at the beginning. The third amendment to C1. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed, same sign. So it's a tie.
A 3-3 tie, which does not pass, so that amendment fails.
Okay. Very good. But I do want to thank Councilman Bachnight for his efforts and research. And, you know, I hope the public does know, we do look at this pretty hard sometimes.
Sure,
So,
your graphics
and
are
we're
very
trying.
good.
And
Thank y'all for entertaining those.
you bet. So we still have the motion and the second as amended, on C1 as amended. No further discussion. I don't think
Place of
so.
business?
My citizen communication,
No,
Place of business.
place of business. Oh, yeah. there's been a fair amount of discussion about that. I don't know whether we should do something to the word place of business, or whether we should put a definition of place of business, or if we should, and I'm not sure where else it is in the ordinance. That's why I'm wondering if it should be a definition, or if everybody feels like place of business is clear enough.
I don't have a problem with place of business. I know you have your lawyer hat on right now.
Right, I'm trying to take it off, but,
Very
you know,
obvious.
you get into, I know you're trying to avoid a business changing its name, and so you don't want to say, you know, a specific business, but, and I guess really through the discussion, if people can go back and read the minutes and see that we were talking about a geographic location.
Okay, so you're not going to make a motion to amend?
No, we'll deal with it if it ever becomes a problem.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, C1, we have a motion second, and we have discussed everything as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, C1 passes. C2,
Hang on.
Ms. Scott would like to go back to citizen communication. Or,
Yes,
excuse me, to
that's
items
right.
from council.
Right, to
Okay.
items from council, okay. So, we have had discussion on this last time, and we knew that Councilman Bachnight was gonna get with Thomas, but it wasn't until we came in today that we were able to see this. And to me, that's one of the frustrations of the openness of, and the transparency of the way we do business. And it makes us look kind of like we look when we're doing this. Anyway, this would have been a perfect situation for the city council forum, for the message board. It's something that is available for the public to view. It's something that council would post to, and I believe we allowed city attorney and manager to post to it also. Councilman Bachnight could have put this on the message board, and we would have been able to read it. I don't know that there would have been any less discussion, but I personally would have felt a little more prepared and would have had my questions more lined up. And I just wanted to bring that up as an item from council, because that really is a perfect situation for that council forum message board.
I agree. I didn't even think about that board, and I would have loved to have shared this
Let's,
beforehand to give everybody some time to think about it.
Let's-
And I asked Mr. Foote before the meeting, and I think the one that says welcome to the message boards had 2,000 people have looked at it, because the community.
On it?
Pardon? Almost 3,000 have looked at it, and I posted something that 24 people have looked at. So I think we can get some, anyway, I thought this was the appropriate time. If I talked about it earlier, it wouldn't have made any sense.
And I certainly agree, and I want to just back up one thing for the public or who may not be totally aware of what that is. Obviously, we're not allowed to communicate outside of here as a group, and so Mr. Bucknight cannot email, he can't even email all these changes, so we get them all at the last minute. And your idea was this forum, which is an online web discussion, which we could have used. We have not, I have looked at it.
Which is an
And-
allowable form of communication
Allowed.
under the Open Meetings
Because
Act.
everyone else can watch what we say too, which is very appropriate. Let's try to remember an example for next time and see, and then maybe we can give it a test run.
We need people to sign up for it.
You got to have an account,
Yes,
right?
you do.
Yeah.
Well, and it's,
Resend that.
Are we good, James?
The public is available to view it.
No, I'm talking about
The only one who
council.
can post is council members.
But council needs to sign up. They have to open an account to post on it.
Yes, they do.
How
So
many
we will-
council postings do we have?
None.
one,
One.
Let's see
and
if
it's
we
a good
can.
post.
So
Or, yeah.
we'll resend that information out to create an account.
And if, on the city's front page of their website, in the bottom right-hand corner, it says City Council Forum. For the public, that's where you click and you can read.
Okay, very good.
We will resend that out.
Thank you for bringing that up. So C2, and we do have a public hearing with this one.
Yes, C2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 to address city secretary administered fees in Section 24-21 regarding itinerant vendor relocation fees, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for publication, codification, and savings, and declaring an effective date.
We'll open the public hearing on C2. If anyone would like to come forward and speak on this item alone, now would be the time. Seeing no one come up, we'll close that public hearing and I'll entertain a motion, council.
I move to adopt.
Second.
Shy tonight. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
So this is within that period of time that they have their permit if they want to go from one location to another.
And when we adopted those changes in Chapter 14 back during the summer, this was in there. We just failed to bring forth the fees last month when we were bringing forth the fees. So it's a cost recovery for secretary.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Okay. That passes. And consent agenda.
There are 9 items on the consent agenda tonight, which will be approved by a single vote. They are first, the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of September. Second, a resolution reappointing a member to the Library Advisory Board and declaring an effective date. Third, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission for the operation of a transit system, authorizing the expenditure of city funds for the transit system in the amount of $209,000 and declaring an effective date. The fourth is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 13 vehicles and equipment, including 1 dump truck, 1 wheel loader, 3 patrol vehicles, 3 investigation vehicles, 2 3/4-ton pickups, 1 1-ton 4x4 pickup, 1 1.5-ton with utility body, and 1 50-kilowatt generator with transfer switch from various vendors and utilizing government cooperative contracts for a total expenditure, including all administration fees, of $636,115.45. Authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete these purchases and declaring an effective date. The fifth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the 25th Amendment to the Containerized Commercial Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Services Contract with Waste Management of Texas Incorporated to allow modified fees for commercial solid waste collection services, on-demand household hazardous waste collection services, and residential recyclable collection services. An effective date. Sixth is a resolution approving the purchase of computers, computer software, computer peripheral equipment, maintenance contracts, security equipment, supplies, and phones through various cooperative purchasing agreements, such as the Department of Information Services Resources, in the amount of $618,923, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to purchases and declaring an effective date. Seventh is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Motorola Solutions for maintenance and scheduled upgrades to the city's 800 megahertz radio system in the amount of $386,660.04 for the current year and declaring an effective date. Eighth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to renew an existing contract with SAP Public Services Incorporated to support the installation of necessary notes and patches on the city's financial and human resources software in the yearly amount of $29,400 and declaring an effective date. And the ninth and final is a resolution awarding the downtown water and sanitary sewer replacement phases 4 projects 4A, 5A, and 6A to Palacios Marine and Industrial Coatings Incorporated of Palacios, Texas, for their low bid of $2,674,831.58, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the project and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve items as presented.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. E1,
Item E1 is a resolution reappointing 1 member and appointing 2 new members to the Parks Commission and declaring an effective date. Mayor and council, we need to add a couple of names into the blanks before we get a motion on the floor to approve that resolution.
I'd like to make a, I mean, we can vote if we need to, but maybe we won't need to. I just wanted to make a nomination specifically for Mr. Kevin Henderson for Parks Commission. They'll have his application. I believe he has gone through the Citizens Academy. I believe he has tried to get on Parks Commission before. But, yes, he has. I'd like to strongly support him. He has a good attitude and strong work ethic.
Well, this is a Parks Commission that we're talking about here.
Yes.
And I just want to say something favorable about Miss Melissa Lewis. And in the Citizens Academy, and I don't remember if y'all remember her, when we met upstairs after they had completed their Citizens Academy. I was just very impressed with her. She was very positive and outspoken and just had a great personality. I think she'd make a good addition to the planning, to the Parks Commission.
Do we have, and forgive me, do we have is Mr. Hode, or Miss Hode, excuse me, also included? After the fact? Okay, so there's 3 in our packet and then Miss Hode. I just didn't want to leave her out.
That's what I was going to say is if we're campaigning, Gail Hode is certainly an asset to this community, and we'd be lucky to have her on any of these boards, and there are several of them that her application is here for as well.
Hold on. Okay, so we need 2 names. We've had 3 statements. We've got 4 sheets. Don't have to vote then? Vote?
Let's vote.
Okay. So tell us what, the ballots have what names on them? You didn't get all
Yeah,
the names.
the ballots have only 2 of the 4 names on them because some of the applications came in after the ballots were prepared. So let me pass these out, and then while you're writing your name at the top, as well as a number 1, in case we have to have multiple, ballots, please write a number 1 at the top. Melissa Lewis's name is on there, Joe Truman's name is on there. Gail Hode's name and Kevin Henderson's name are not on the ballot. So if you would like to vote for either of them, please simply write their name into that 3rd blank and circle it. And then circle the name that you are interested in voting for. We're voting for just 1 name at this point, and then we'll do a second ballot for the second blank. When you get finished, you can send that back to me, and Scarlett and I will tabulate those results.
What were the 2 names that we had a choice of putting in?
The 2 names you can write in are Kevin Henderson and Melissa Lewis. Excuse me, Gail Hode. Kevin Henderson and Gail Hode's name could be written in because they are not on the ballot.
Voting for 1 or 2?
And we're voting for 1. 1 name.
Put a 1 on the top corner of your ballot.
And put a 1 on the top
One
corner of
name
your
only.
ballot.
Oh. One name only on this ballot.
That's correct. While the ballots are coming in, I'll remind everyone that council has previously indicated a desire to have these appointments done by simple majority, which would require, even though there are only 6 members here tonight, it would require 4 votes for any one person. So that was 4 votes for Kevin Henderson. We'll put that name in the blank. And then for just public information, there was also 1 vote for Gail Hode and 1 vote for Joe Truman. So now we'll move on to repeating the process. This time you'll put a number 2 in the upper corner. We're now voting again from the same names minus Kevin Henderson to put a name in the second blank. So again, please put your name at the top of the ballot, put a number 2 at the top of the ballot. And you can write in the name Gail Hode if you'd like to nominate her to go in the blank, and then choose between Gail Hode, Melissa Lewis, and Joe Truman.
Lots of racing today. Y'all want to do? Yeah.
For the benefit of the public, I'll go ahead and say, as I usually do, this is not a secret ballot system. The names are on all of the ballots. These records are maintained in the city secretary's office. So if anyone is interested in knowing how council members voted, they can certainly ask for that. We just do it this way to speed things along. So that is 4 nominations for Melissa Lewis. Her name will go in the second blank. And again, there was 1 additional vote for Joe Truman and 1 for Gail Hode. So the 2 names that will go into the blank then are Kevin Henderson and Melissa Lewis. And then we have that motion, excuse me, we do not have a motion on the floor yet.
Yeah.
So we need to get a motion on the floor to approve that.
We need a motion for E1.
Make a motion that we nominate Kevin Henderson and Melissa Lewis for the Parks Commission.
Mark Hinojosa.
And Mark Hinojosa.
He's
Hinojosa reappointed.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. I think there's any discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign? Okay. So we have city manager reports now.
Charlotte, that's the first one to talk about upcoming planning commission appointment.
There is a vacancy on the Planning Commission. Vic Caldwell has resigned. His term is through August of 2017. I handed out some applications of folks who had applied earlier in the year for when we appointed to Planning Commission. And so I just need to know if you want to, me just to bring back a resolution and leave it blank, or
I think we probably should leave it blank. We'll do this normal process, and then that way we can digest this a little bit. And we'll come up with the name next meeting. Is that agreeable, council? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, Scarlett.
Second report is Andrew. Jacob has a procurement award, and I see his staff is in full force tonight, so he'll introduce them.
Always try to get it on a short meeting, and it never fails, so we're probably skip a little bit of the background on this award. This is, again, pleased to report that the city has received the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement for now the 6th consecutive year. This basically represents accreditation for our procurement process. This program is sponsored by the National Procurement Institute. And as Charmel mentioned, yes, staff is here. Lana, if y'all will stand, Lana, Richard, and Thomas basically do it for a day-to-day perspective and couldn't do it without them. So all the credit goes to them. Thank you.
After the meeting, don't run off, and OC can get a quick picture.
Okay.
So if your staff doesn't mind waiting a few more minutes.
Thank you very much. Congratulations for your work.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Good evening, council. It's that time of the year again where we have rate increases. The good news is this year we have rate decreases. I want to talk about Republic. Republic runs our landfill. We created a contract with them in 2008, and they've been doing an excellent job out there. The last couple of years, our rate has gone down. It will go down again this year. Our current rate's $29.92. The new rate will be $28.81. That's tied to CPI contract. It's part of the contract. So as the CPI continues to go down, so will that contract. There is a second part to that, though, which is going up, which is the part, that first part I talked about strictly deals with city waste. What comes from the City of Victoria Solid Waste Department. They are, however, going up 5% on all others. By contract, they're allowed to do increases, just not to exceed 8% over a 2-year period, and they've asked for a 5% increase this year. And I'll answer any questions on Republic.
Is normal operating expenses the recovery?
Yes, sir, and I'm sure there's closure costs, machinery, all types of things in there.
Yeah.
What's the difference between city waste and non-city waste in terms of why do they have to have our approval if it's non-city waste?
And actually, we take waste from anywhere within 100 miles of our landfill, so non-city waste is all others.
I see.
And by contract, they don't necessarily have to have approval. This is our way of letting you know that they're going to do an increase so that we're aware in case we get phone calls. I will get phone calls from different people that will call about whether it's waste management or someone else going up on the rates because of landfill. So we want to make sure that city council is aware of what's going on with the contract and that the rates did increase.
So the carriers that operate in the county, that take their trucks there, or somebody that does a lot of construction that takes stuff there, that they're the one that's gonna go up.
Other cities,
That's just what went down, you said it was 29.92 and it went to 28.
81, that is for the city of Victoria waste that
Just
we
our
pick up at our
residential.
households.
Very good.
The next one I want to talk about is our I'm
Darrell, real
sorry.
quick, what % of that is, of the refuse, how does it break up between what we take them and everyone else? Is ours the majority of it? Just curious.
Well, I can't give you an exact number. We
Okay.
take in about 500 tons a week. We're probably less than a third of that
We're less than a third of the overall intake to the dump, the
on a
city?
weekly basis.
Really?
But
I thought it'd be a lot higher.
Well, you got to remember,
all the commercials.
you've got waste management coming
yeah,
in
no, I
from,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
8 different cities, and Republic coming in from, and then all these other cities coming in as well.
Okay.
And then we have our compost facility. They're also going to do a rate decrease of 1.15%. Again, this is just to let council know that that rate's going to go down. The the city rate and rate for what we take in as far as, that's all of our brush and yard waste will go down. Their contract's set up where we have to guarantee them 9,975 yards. We surpass our tons. We surpass that every year. So the first 9,000 tons that we take them drop by 26 cents. After that, it dropped by 11 cents, but the rate dropped from $22 down to $11 for that difference. So the new rate for the first 9,975 tons is $22.67, down 26 cents from the previous rate. And the rate for our brush after that is down 13 cents from 11.46 to 11.33. And then, of course, all of our biosolids are hauled there from our plant. And that rate dropped from 16.06 down to 15.88. That is mixed in with our brush and yard waste is what we build our compost out of. That's our nitrogen source. Those rates took effect on the 1st of this month. And hopefully be up here a third year next year talking about the rates going down again.
Good.
Thank y'all.
Okay, thank you.
And the last manager's report is our annual street inventory that Mr. Short set out at each of your areas, so he'll go over that.
Certainly. Good evening. Public Works Department is very pleased to be able to present you this evening this 2016 street inventory. As the city manager mentioned, there's a copy for each of you there at your seat. As you know, this is a very useful tool that we prepare every year, and we use that tool then to help us make decisions with regard to street maintenance and street rehabilitation activities throughout the year. This report basically assigns a rating to each of the city's street segments based on 13 criteria. Things like how much rutting, cracking, pushing that we might observe on any of these street segments. It's divided into 8 sections, and the data then is arranged in different ways to make it more user-friendly. Those different data sorts include an alphabetical listing, a worst to best listing, a listing where the street segments are grouped by subdivisions, and then also a section that contains only thoroughfares. A couple of points I'd like to bring to your attention as you look at this, especially in section 7, which is the graphs section. There are 2 graphs there. The first one you'll see is a street condition trends graph. That's the multicolored graph that you see there. Basically, that shows the percentage of the street segments that fall within the categories of very poor, poor, fair, good, and very good. And what you hope to see, of course, as you look across each of those years across time, you hope to see that your very good and good segments of that graph get larger over time, and that your fare at least stays steady and doesn't grow very much, and certainly then you hope to see your poor and your very poor segments decline. And as you look at this graph, that's exactly what you'll see there. For 2016, as compared to 2015, the percentage of street segments rated as very good increased by 1%, 35.6 in 2015 to 36.9 in 2016. The percentage of street segments that fall within the good category increased from 38.9 to 39.7. The street segments, the percentage of segments that fell within that fair category pretty much remained pretty constant. It increased slightly from 16.4 to 16.8%. And then the poor and the very poor stayed constant at 5.1% and 0.5% respectively. The other graph in that section is the average condition rating, and basically takes all the street segments and the ratings that are assigned and averages them by length and also by square foot. And what you hope to see as you look at that graph is that over time, your average street rating rises across time. And that again is what you'll see when you look at this graph from 1994 to present. For 2016, our average street condition was 87.09 as compared to 86.85 in 2015. This report represents many, many hours of city staff time driving those streets, collecting data, and then assimilating that data and putting the report together. We're very proud to give it to you this evening, present it to you this evening, and we look forward to its extensive use as we redevelop our CIP, our Capital Improvements Program, in the coming year. This will be posted on the website tomorrow. If you have any questions now, I'll be happy to address them, but certainly as you have more time to study this and look at the data, should you have questions, please contact me through the city manager's office, and I'll be happy to address any questions or concerns you might have.
I have a question. I know we're working on a sidewalk inventory also.
We are.
This report has sidewalks. Will the sidewalk inventory will it show maps, or what will be the difference?
Well, we're still developing that,
Still developing
but it certainly will identify where gaps in the sidewalk are, and hopefully we can prioritize those.
And it looks like you've got a good start on quite a bit of it.
This has some of the data, but the new planometrics that were recently, when we had the aerial flight, that will really help with that process.
Actually, I hope it looks similar, because I've always thought this was very well organized. I hope your sidewalk inventory is organized in the same manner, personally.
We will endeavor to do so.
I'm going to look at it more later and digest it. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Leanne.
City manager report.
That is.
We do not have a work session. We do have executive session upstairs. I'm just wondering, I guess we better go on upstairs. Huh?
We can do it right in here if you want to.
Just to save time, I
There's no
thought,
problem.
council, do y'all care if we just?
No, right there.
With it being
Or
National
even in-
Night Out, so everybody
Okay.
can go. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
City Council will recess for executive session on the fourth day of October 2016 at 6:20 PM. The subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows. Texas Government Code Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property interest due to the fact that a deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third party. And second, the Texas Government Code Section 551.087 to discuss or deliberate the offer of financial or other incentive to a business prospect that the city council seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the city of Victoria, and with which the city of Victoria is conducting economic development negotiations. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll adjourn to executive session. There's no further business after that. Thank you.